So I'd like to call upon this wonderful lady, and I like to say that I've almost now, as I said, that every FSM member is now like family to me. So I'd like to call upon this wonderful lady, a senior maritime industry leader, who is currently serving as the director at Naval Petroleum India Private Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our very first speaker, Ritu Chaudhri, as she comes up to give us a presentation.
Thank you, Captain Shaukat, for giving me the opportunity to speak at FSM 2026. And good morning to everybody over here. Today, I'll be speaking on a very interesting topic, the options of an alternative fuel. The idea is that in today's world, because of the regulations, we have to choose an alternative fuel. And there are many alternative fuels. You have methanol, you have hydrogen, you have ammonia, you have biofuel. And I'm only going to speak on biofuel today because that's the fuel that is readily available and it is most cost effective. And you can buy and use biofuel in the existing infrastructure which is on board the vessel and with the logistic distributor, your marketing partners. So basically in biofuel, there are two biofuels. We have FAME and we have HVO. Now when you buy FAME or HVO, you may buy B30. B30 means you have got 30% biofuel in it. If it's B10, you mean it got 10% biofuel. So today, B30 is the most popular biofuel available globally. And that is what most of the people are using. You can even use B30 to B100, or you can use R100, which is the HVO blend. HVO is a very, very fine fuel. It's very expensive. So very rarely a marine person will use it, depending on the commercial terms that he or she is buying at. Okay. When you're buying your B30, you will have the B30 as an MGO blend, or you may have B30 as a residual blend. That means your HSFO or your VLSFO may come as a biofuel to you, or you may have an LSMGO as a biofuel. So you may have a distillate blend, or you may have a residual blend. So once you understood that these are the two biofuels that I have, please understand the issues that you may face with the biofuel. The importance is biofuel is a very, very good alternative for you to meet or comply with the regulations that are in place, whether it be the CII, whether it be EU ETS, whether it be Fuel EU. So it's a very good alternative, but you must understand the issues, because otherwise when you take biofuel on board the vessel and you face issue, you'll say, oh, the biofuel is not of good quality, and that is wrong. Biofuel is of a very good quality, it's a very good alternative available. So the question is, it is regulation approved, but why are we choosing? Why are we choosing? The reason we are choosing biofuel today is because it is readily available, it is economical, it has got mature production. You have a lot of people producing your biofuel. And most importantly, you can use it within the existing infrastructure. No changes to the engine, no changes by the marketing agency. So that is the reason why biofuel is the most popular alternative fuel available today in the market. It is reliable, it is a clean fuel, and it's efficient. Okay. So the question is, because biofuel has all these qualities of economics, readily available, to be used within the same infrastructure, you'll notice that in 2023, we had less than 2%. In 24, it increased to a little over 2%. And last year, we crossed 3%. So biofuel is becoming more popular as a choice compared to any other alternative fuel. The other thing is, why is it attractive? Now, you have something called the CII. You can see if your rating or your EU ETS or your Fuel EU, you can see that when you're using biofuel, I've taken B24 because that's the most popular brand available in Singapore, which Singapore, 35 to 40% of the bunkers in the world pass through Singapore. You can see how effectively she is helping you to reduce your carbon emission or your greenhouse emission. So the beauty is that you can use biofuel for 2 months in a year or 4 months in a year and meet your rating of CII. So this year you can use for 2 months, next year you can increase it to 4 months, then you can increase it to 6 months. So that is the beauty. You don't need to use biofuel continuously depending on the commercial terms that you're buying it off it. And if you're going to Europe and you have to do, then of course, biofuel is a very, very good alternative. Then what you save in your fuel, in your EU ETS allowance or in your fuel EU greenhouse emission is cheaper. So biofuel may cost you few more dollars, but it turns out to be much cheaper alternative to you. So the question is, biofuel for CII. You can see the baseline. On 27, 28, and 29, the vessel is rating going to D and E with 100% biofuel and 25% biofuel. You please have a look. It maintains the rating. So the biofuel is a very good alternative, a reliable alternative, a clean fuel alternative that allows you to maintain your CII rating. The other thing I would like to bring to a thing, biofuel doesn't have its own specification. It follows the standard ISO 8217. So it's not that you need a special specification, but hopefully in a couple of years you'll get a more specific specification for biofuel, which will help you to control the quality. We all know ISO 8217 is a very broad, open-ended specification. Okay. So the question is, why are we doing all this? Only one reason. Why are we shifting to biofuel? To move towards net zero. That's the only aim. We are not doing this exercise because it's cheaper or costlier. We are only doing it because this is aim and to be compliant with the regulations that we have. So now we understood biofuel. We understood the issues. We know that she's the best alternative available right now for us to meet regulations and compliances. So the question is, what do we do before we use biofuel? Inform your OEM. That's very important. Inform your class. Make sure your tanks are clean. But remember, even 1% or 2% water can be very deterrent to a biofuel product. Please train your crew. The crew must have a half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, whatever training, but they must be aware that biofuel is a good fuel. These are the issues, and this is how you're going to handle the issues. Okay. So this is the two fuels, HVO and biofuel, FAME. HVO is very rarely used. The only issue HVO has, it's lubricity, very, very dry fuel. It's an expensive fuel. There's a good alternative to ATF. HVO may be a very good alternative to aviation turbine fuel in the future. FAME, 3 issues. Very good fuel, but 3 issues. Cold flow, she will have a very high pour point, so there's a possibility she may have a cold flow. She is hydrogrospic. That means she has a tendency to attract water. So if there's water, as you all know, you'll have a microbial growth. So you need to be very good in your housekeeping, make sure the water is drained, and stability. So the thing is, stability, cold flow, and microbial growth is what you need to look at. So if you understand these are the issues of my fuel, you'll be able to address these issues well before these issues arise. So the question is, people ask that if I have a regular MGO and I use FAME, what is the difference? Because I want to know the difference. If I have regular MGO and I use HVO, what is the difference? It's very simple. If you have regular MGO and you have a FAME MGO, these are the drawbacks: stability, microbial growth. So this question is, and people say the first one, energy content. You must understand, when you buy fuel and you change from one fuel to the other fuel, there's something known as the gross calorific value. The gross calorific value of biofuel is about 3 to 4% lower than your residual fuel. So there's a common sense says that you will use 3 to 4% additional. It doesn't mean that the biofuel is poor quality, that is why you're using more. It's the gross calorific value. You will use 3 to 4% more to generate the same amount of energy to run your vessels. So that is it. While in HVO, there's only one drawback: lubricity. It's a very dry fuel. If you use HVO for more than 6 hours, you will get scarring in your engine. That is the low lubricity, is identical to ATF, extremely dry fuel. So this is a comparison. So you can understand from a fuel, if I go to an alternate fuel, these are the issues that I may face, and I need to address these issues. So basically, this is a very good study done by a university in Singapore. The reason I've taken this study, because as you know, Singapore, 35 to 40% of the biofuels are also passing through Singapore. And Singapore basically sells B24. That means 24% is biofuel. At this point, I'd like to draw your attention. Whenever you buy biofuel, please have the FAME content tested. In the last 2 months itself, But when they bought B24, the FAME content was only 16% in Singapore in some of the fuels. In Rotterdam, when they bought B30, the FAME content was only 24%. So be a little careful. Please get the FAME content tested. So when this university ran, they ran the test over 2 to 4 months in stability. And what they noticed in the 2 to 4 months, biofuel, because your tank sweat, so the water condensation keeps condensing. They notice that there's a lot of water condensation and water absorbent in that 2 to 4 month period. The other thing they noticed that when the water content rises, the viscosity increases. When the water content rises, bacterial growth may come in. Bacterial growth and water will increase the viscosity. So what that they notice is degradation. The other thing they notice in that 2 to 4 months, if there's water and you burn water, because there's oxidative instability, when the fuel has an oxidative instability, she causes something called peroxide, those white gum-like sludge. And when peroxides are burned in an engine, they cause acidic corrosion. So that's the other thing they notice. They have water corrosion and acidic corrosion, and they notice oxidability. This is a fabulous test. So they are trying to educate the customer that biofuel is a very good alternative, but please understand her so you can address those issues. So the question is, very important, this is a slide that you must train your staff that in storage, you may have water collection, you may have to do housekeeping. When the fuel is burnt or when the fuel is used, you may have filter clogging, filter choking. And when the fuel is burned, you may have something called injector fouling. The reason you have injector fouling is biofuel as a characteristic have a lot of insolubles. And when you're burning an fuel with a lot of insolubles, over time meaning anywhere from 2 weeks to as high as 6 or 8 weeks, those insolubles tend to choke your injectors. And when your injectors get choked, what happens? Your fuel optimization gets skewed, and poor fuel optimization will automatically affect your combustion. So this is something that we always tell customer, please train your onboard staff, tell them they have to keep very alert when they're using biofuels. They should understand the issues and address those issues in the thing. This is a photographs we have taken from some of our European customers. In Europe, they've been using biofuels for as high as 20 years. All the in-river cruises have converted to biofuels. This is an MGO biofuel, because this is what. And you can see that you got the injector choking, you got the white wax, that's your filter choking, you got your biocides on your injectors, and on the top right-hand side, you can see where the water and the fuel meet. That interface is where you have your bacterial growth. So these are photographs shared by, I think some of the photographs are even 10 years or 12 years old. This is to indicate to you that these are the issues that you can face if you're not addressing them up front. Otherwise, you'll blame the fuel when the fuel basically is a very good quality fuel and a very good alternative. So we have done a test. So a lot of people are using biofuel of a VLFO blend. So we have taken VLFO from 4 different sections of the world, Rotterdam, Houston, Singapore. And we have taken the biofuel, and we have done a stability test. You all must be very familiar. There's a stability test called reserve stability number, which tells you whether the heavy molecules are stable in the fuel, because that is what causes the maximum sludging. And that should be number 5. But what I have done, I've taken it at number 10. And we have run an additive. So this is in solution. If you're going to use biofuel for more than 4 or 5 weeks, we recommend that you use a good chemical stabilizer that keeps the fuel stable. And you'll see with the additive, the result of 10 and 12 and 13 have come down to 0.1, 0.2, 0.1. That's the level. So if you're using biofuel for long term, you must use a good stabilizer. These stabilizers cost you 0.2%, but they save you at least 3 to 4% of handling cost. So it's a very cost-effective way to keep your fuel stable. The other thing we noticed, that because biofuel has a lot of insolubles, so if you keep using them for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, those insolubles start choking the injectors. Then as we come back to the same thing, your optimization gets messed up and the power drops. And then at that point, we put in a combustion catalyst additive. and a stabilizer, the power goes back and it maintains. So all our European partners, our customers, have been using not only stabilizer, but they've been using combustion catalyst. And they notice that the biofuel power and cleanliness is maintained continuously. So the engine comes out as good as new even after 2 or 3 years of continuous usage. So this is what you can add as a solution if you're going to use it on a long-term basis. This is a pictorial. You can see how a choked injector and a clean injector, you can see the optimization and you can see the fouling on the injector. This is the power of an additive that can address issues that you may face only in long-term usage. So a lot of our customers whose vessels are only going to be plying in the European waters have already shifted to a biofuel option at this point. So these are basically the products. So if you're using a specific fuel, those are the additives. So they're not individual additives. They all come in one package. So you can contact whoever is your chemical fuel treatment chemical supplier and say, see, I'm going to use a biofuel, FAME or VLF or whichever blend, and say I would like a stabilizer with a combustion catalyst or just a stabilizer. And if you're using HVO, please do not use it without a lubricity improver. So basically, the best practice is, if you're using biofuel, don't store it for a long time. If you store it for a long time, you need a chemical treatment to it, or what we call a fuel additive. Try to not co-mingle. And people say, you know, Ritu, I'm going back to Rotterdam, same supplier, and I'm buying soya base. No. The raw material of soya may come from America. The other one may come from China. The weather, the soil, the fertilizers are different. So basically, your core raw material is changed, although it may be soya based. So don't fall for that trap. And then you'll say, I had 5%, I've got to mess up. So no co-mingling. Good housekeeping, make sure you're draining the water on a regular basis. And most importantly, you must not overheat biofuel or keep it towards another tank which is heating, because heating will create fuel aging, that is meaning instability in biofuel. And if you're using for long term, you must use a good alternative fuel treatment to ensure that your transition from fossil fuel to biofuel is without any issues. Thank you for listening.
Please stay on stage. Thank you so much for that and very enlightening session. And I would like you to please be on stage. We have a small little felicitation for you. To do the honors, I would like to call upon Dr. Bilani from Blue Shield Clinic. If you're here, Dr. Bilani, can you please join us on stage? We will go ahead and we will felicitate Miss Ritu Chaudhri with us. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Thank you very much, Doctor, and thank you, ma'am, for joining us on stage.